Well, folks, welcome back to Celebrate Recovery's Principles and Testimonies, and also the AA Big Book Stories, the stories in the back of the books. I'm your host, Jason. If y'all don't mind, go ahead and give me the thumbs up doodle, and if you're new to the channel and you like the content, just please subscribe. Supporting Andrew Hager this morning. The Blameless Children. With that, let's just jump into it. This morning I'm doing something a little different. I'm going to put my own, or try to make my own personal testimony video. And as you can see, I'm doing it in the game room. I'm doing my man cave, sortie. Today's video was brought to you by James 414 Vape Sales. That's James 414 Vape Sales. They're out of Mount Vernon, Kentucky. They're out there on 461. Yeah, they're out there on 461, going towards Somerset. Personally, I call it Vape Heaven, but they're real good people. They have about everything you could want. If they don't, they'll try and order it for you. I have been vaping since I have been sober. Started vaping right out of rehab like a year ago, Actually hit a little stick vape while I was in rehab and got out of rehab, and my girlfriend got her taxes back. She just bought me a great big one, which I've actually traded by now. I moved on and upgraded and all that. Okay, now, the Dream Team, testimony time. Okay. I was actually born in UK Hospital in Lexington, Kentucky, which I lived there until I was about 6. My mother and father ran a set of apartments right there in the ghetto, right on 7th Street. And if you're from 7th Street, like, I'm not trying to demean you or speak ill of where you're from or nothing like that. It's just calling a spade a spade. It's the ghetto. Like, I'm so glad my parents moved. Like, I'm not demeaning anyone, but yeah, I was meant to be in the country. So at 6 years old, we moved to a little town called Broadhead, Kentucky, which is middle of nowhere. I mean, it's not as bad as it could be middle of nowhere, but it's a little bitty tiny town and a little bitty tiny county with little bitty tiny schools. It's growing now, but it's still rather small. So I was raised up pretty good. Like, my parents we were poor. We didn't really have nothing, but I was taught how to love people, and I was taught how to be kind to them. I can't blame my mistakes or my addiction on my raising or my upbringing, because, I mean, don't get me wrong, it has a little bit to do with it, but there wasn't much childhood trauma involved. There wasn't emotional scarring or nothing like that. My mother is a wonderful woman, and she loves very, very deeply, and she cares a lot. She just doesn't know how to respond and react to controversy. She doesn't know how to. She's got a lot of pride, and that's a good thing, but it can, in certain situations, it can be a bad thing. And my father was an advocate. I can't say drug user, but he was an advocate pot smoker when I was a child. And that's not the first thing that I need to say about him. Like, we were poor, but I had everything I ever wanted because my daddy went out and worked for it. Like, he would go to work with boots that put blisters on his feet. But I was wearing brand new Michael Jordan tennis shoes to school. The suede ones, the old retro 90 ones, you know what I mean? And I had all the latest Nintendos, all the latest games. Obviously, y'all can see by the plug and play arcade in the back. That's actually a Pandora's Box 6 is what it is. It's got a bunch on it. I'm not for sure how many, but I was a big gamer. My brothers were gamers. I was raised in a house with 3 older brothers and an older sister, and I was the baby, of course. So it got me a lot of advantages that taught me how to manipulate people at a young age and how to just leave people hanging out to dry, pretty much. Like, I would leave my older brothers and sisters on the hook and not have to get in very much trouble for it because I was the baby. They enabled me. They were really the first people to enable me. But I grew up, I never really failed a grade at school or nothing like that. I didn't do excellent in school. I got smart somehow. Like, it's amazing to me that I got smart. Just as amazing that I got sober. It's the grace of God. That's the only way I can explain it, because somehow I got intelligent. Because I didn't pay a bit of attention in school. I can remember, like, lunchtime and the in-between classes and the people, but actual lessons and in schools, like being in class, working on the board and doing, I don't remember none of that. None of it. But I got smart some magical way. And it's about the same. It's funny. I didn't realize it until I just said it, but my sobriety was the same way. I just got clean somehow. Like, that's why the only person I can contribute to is God, because how else can I explain it? So I was bullied in grade school. You know what I mean? I wasn't really popular until middle school. Like, middle school, when all the bullies, I was about in 7th grade, that gave time for all the bullies to go on to high school. And it's like my personality was not to be denied. I went to school with a great bunch of my class. My year was simply amazing people. And they allowed for my personality to be seen instead of the clothes I wore or the shoes I wore or my financial situation at home. You know what I mean? They judged me on me. And don't get me wrong, I'm not it wasn't 100% of the people that like me, but man, most people like me. And by the time I got in high school, I'd really hit my groove. Like, I had been on that train so long, that being the people's champ and everybody loving me. It's like, from top to bottom, the poor, the financial, the unpopular, the geeks, the football. I was on the football team, so of course I was immensely popular with them. Everyone knew me, and I was like, I wasn't prom king or Mrs. RC or Mr. Rockcastle or nothing like that. But I done pretty well, man, in school and with popularity, and everybody seemed to love me, and I just carried that on to my adulthood. I started smoking pot about 8th grade or so, and by the time I was a sophomore, I was using meth, you know, and I man, it's been so long that I can't say that I enjoyed it, but I did. I did enjoy it, and I did suffer from depression from being bullied like in grade school. But by the time I was out of high school, that was gone. Like, I was such on a train, an emotional train ride of popularity and being funny and really my character and who I was coming together. No, it's on Pulp Fiction. That guy says just because you are a character doesn't mean you have character, and that was really true with me. I've made a lot of mistakes. I wasn't a, a wonderful, wonderful person to be around. Even in high school, I shunned people and thought I was too good for them. You know, thought I was too popular for them, or I just like I, by the end of high school, it changed a little bit, but I was too cool to talk to some people. I was too cool to like. I thought I was better than people. There's no other way to say it. I thought I was better than people. And I went on to Ruth right after high school. I graduated when I was 17. Like, just the way my birthday fell, I graduated early. You know what I mean? Or got to start early, really. I got to start early. So I finished early. It just made sense. I finished before I was 18. I went right to hot roofing with my dad. And I'd done that for about 3 or 4 years. In addiction the whole time, using I didn't really use pills or drink. Like I'd got drunk a few times by then. By the time I graduated high school, I used to drink a lot with the boys in high school, but it never was really my thing. Like smoking weed, and especially after I got out of high school, it was meth. Like I used meth through high school, but I couldn't say 10 times. I don't, I don't know. One summer I might have done it a whole bunch. You know what I mean, through high school. But but uh but when I hit my 20s and I was hot roofing, making all that money, and one of the foremans at the roofing company I worked with sell me all kinds of drugs. You know what I mean, anything I wanted. So all through my 20s, I was a terrible drug addict and made a whole lot of mistakes, and I made even more in school. Like I don't know, I was like I don't exactly know how to say I was bothered when I was a child, like when I was 8, 9, 10 years old. So so when I was in high school, I wanted to have sex with young women. Like just is what it is. Like I would be at the end of my high school and want to sleep with women that was in the or girls that was in the beginning of high school, and that continued on into my 20s. Like it was never any violence involved or anything. I just always like to keep a young girlfriend. Uh, I could manipulate them easy. I could, you know what I mean? I could train them the way I used to say it back then. I could train them to be what I want them to be. And thank God I finally got over that. Like, through, once again, through the grace of God. Through the grace of God, I got over that young, early high school aged girls. You know what I mean? Uh, oh, anyway, I hurt my back really bad, and I was like 28, and I couldn't no longer roof. And by that time, I was not doing meth so much as I would take pain pills and nerve pills because I knew I could substitute them for the for the rush that I was feeling off meth, which was what I was addicted to. I was a speed addict. But the rush I was feeling off those, I could substitute it with those pills. But it took a lot of them, don't get me wrong, because, like, you snort a pain pill and you get a rush for, like, 10, 15 minutes, maybe, tops. Not even that sometimes. But I was substituting that short rush with the long-term rush of methamphetamines. Uh, I've done meth 25 years, you know what I mean? But it was off and on. We had an off and on relationship. Sometimes I would go 2 years and not do it. Sometimes I went 5 years in that 25 years and didn't do meth. And then I'd say I went 2 years, 2 or 3 years, and then I went another stint, and then I went 5 years, and then it was like a whole another year or two that I had in. But at the end of my addiction, right before I got clean, it was just out of control. Like the availability, the access I had to the drug, I knew that I could go to sleep that night and I'd have more in the morning. You know what I mean? I didn't have to string it out and string my buzz out. Like I knew I could get high again tomorrow. So I went to sleep and went to eat. I ate and went to sleep. And that's when it got really out of control. Like I tried to stop a few times and just drink or just snort pills, but it just never worked. Like my rehab taught me that total abstinence is the only way to stop doing drugs. So I was 28 and hurt my back and wasn't able to. I was able to work, but I wasn't able to walk for like 4 months. And I had to teach myself how to walk again because I didn't go to like the physical rehab up to it. Like I taught myself to walk again, and it wasn't as glorious as it sounds or as victorious as it sounds. I taught myself to walk again. It wasn't that. It wasn't that glamorous. Like I couldn't teach my feet to walk exactly right because you start on your tiptoes and you roll your feet. It didn't just. It didn't just a stomping like you ain't even got no feet. It's it starts from the back and you got and then in with the toes. You know what I mean? And I wasn't smart enough to know that I physically couldn't teach my feet to do that, and I needed physical rehab at the time. And I was great for a while, but a couple of years, and I just after that back surgery, I just got down, and my hips been shattered for 12 years. You know what I mean? But I always could overcome that. Like I spent a long time with my back and all my other muscles and all my other strengths, and would overcome that. But it just got to a point where I couldn't overcome my bad hip. It's like in 15 pieces. Like they put the X-ray up there and circled them with a little marker. All the little 15 pieces of my hip being shattered. And it was like that forever. But I was running, like when they told me that, I was running a mile every day. Like it really didn't affect me until I hurt my back and really had to take that time off to heal up. You know what I mean? And I just was never the same after back surgery. I just was never the same work animal like I used to be, the world's finest labor. You know what I mean? But it came to a point to where I wasn't that guy anymore. And I just believe the Lord wanted me to rely on something else, another strength, called my mind, like, and just use other. I had more attributes. I had more strengths than just my back and my work ability. And I believe God was trying to teach me how to use it. He don't want you resting on your laurels, you know what I mean, on what you have done. He wants you rest on what you will do. You know what I mean? Uh, gotta earn your way, you know what I mean? So about 30, see, I just turned 36, so right after I turned 35, a little more than a month after I turned 35, uh, from 28 to 35 was just terrible. Like, I don't know, I probably went a year in that time and didn't do meth, but I had started doing it again, and it was this 3 year out of control. And every time I tried to substitute it with something else, like that just started getting out of control. Like at the end, I would wake up in the morning and, well, you're not supposed to mention specific drugs in your testimony, like in your story. You know what I mean? AA calls it your story. You're not supposed to mention specifics because that could trigger somebody. And I've learned that. Like, AA just makes you a better person. And there's also a program, it's a Christ-based program called Celebrate Recovery. And it's been amazing to me. Like both the programs together has just made me such a better person and to rely on God and to rely on my higher power, you know? Like I forgot to mention that I pretty much always went to church from middle school on. Like one of the referees from football would come 20 minutes out of his way to pick me up for church, you know what I mean? And he just continued and continued to do it like my whole life until I graduated high school. So good 6 or 7 years, man. He would go entirely way out of his way to come pick me up for church because he knew that's where I needed to be. Anyway, back to 35, and a little after I turned 35, I checked myself into a rehab. It was a rehab up in Campbellsville, Kentucky. It's called the Bluegrass Horizon. It's the BGH, Bluegrass Horizon. They were an AA-based facility, and they were just totally amazing. Like they tolerated me through like I worked for them and stuff a little bit while I was there. Like the first day I was there, I cleaned all their toilets. You know what I mean? I slapped on old rubber gloves and I cleaned all their toilets. I was like, so I'm going to use these toilets. I'm going to clean them. You know what I mean? Because I don't. God love them. I don't know. I just don't trust stuff like that. Like their dishwasher, they thought I was weird because I would pull dishes out of the dishwasher and wash them before I ate on them. You know what I mean? Because dishwashers are not the most they're not the best way to clean your dishes. You still need to wash your dish before you use it when you take it out of the dishwasher because I've took them apart and seen black grime and they need it cleaned out once a week. You know what I mean? If you're going to use them and not have to just double wash everything. And then most people forget to go and wash it. Why even use the dishwasher? Which I feel the same thing. I've done a whole lot of dishes while I was there too. But they were AA based facility and they were just amazing people, man. They give me we read the first 164 of the big book like 3-4 times while I was there, and then I read it. I read the whole book immediately after I got out of their rehab. So it just gave me this strong foundation, this strong base in AA, you know, and there wasn't many AAs in the county though when I got out. There wasn't very many AA meetings available. So I was like, well, I'll go to this Celebrate Recovery. It's a 12-step program also. Like it's based excuse me. It's based on the 12 steps of the Alcoholics Anonymous book, but they just have biblical comparisons to them, you know what I mean? And like I've been to church all them years and all them Sunday schools and all that time, and I needed the Word of God in my life also. You know what I mean? Like I love the AA book and the 12 and 12, but I needed the Word of God and Jesus. I needed Jesus also. Like AA doesn't talk about Jesus. Not that they don't believe in him or whatever, whatnot. They just AA's for everybody. You know what I mean? And like if you're a Muslim, you ain't going to sober up in a Christ-based program. You're just not. So that's what AA's for. You know what I mean? That's what, because AA's mentions higher power and it's for everybody. But I really need both programs altogether for real. Like they're both full with amazing people, and it's a discipleship program. Is what my like unofficial sponsor. Like he's my sponsor, but he don't like. I haven't really like I ain't called him out. You my sponsor, buddy. You know what I mean? Like it ain't. But he's unofficially my sponsor for real. Like he's been a godsend. Like he really has. But he said it's a discipleship program. It's just quite frankly, making me a better person. And now, today, like I've got a year clean in, you know what I mean? Or it's right at 13 months. Or, yeah, 12 and 13. That's right. It's right at 13 months. And, man, I'm just such a better person. I know how to love myself and I know how to love other people. And my friend Lee, he always talks about the prayer of St. Francis, which is really long, but it's pretty much the latter over the later. You know what I mean? Like better to forgive than be forgiven. Better to understand than be understood. You know what I mean? And it's just the prayer, the St. Francis prayer, pretty much, man. I read it in 12 and 12 back of this too. Like I'm slowly now starting to read that book. And I would make videos on it, but somebody's already done it, and I like to keep my channel to something not rare, but unique. Even though they teach in AA that unique is a bad thing, you know what I mean? Like, but I want to keep my channel basically something that you can only find here. You know what I mean? The Dream Team. Uh, it's been an awesome road. I've had 13 months of meetings, accountability partners, sponsors, helping others. Like once you make it to 12 steps, it's about helping other alcoholics achieve sobriety. And even though I was an alcoholic, don't get me wrong, because at the end I would have to drink 2 or 3 bottles of wine, you know what I mean, to substitute my speed addiction and my other addictions, you know. But so I was definitely an alcoholic. But even if you aren't, you take the AA book and you input it. You know what I mean? And that's another thing that's good about celebrate recovery, because it's not just for it's not hard to understand. You don't have to input nothing. It's for every problem a Christian can have. Like I'm sure they've dealt with plenty. I'm sure the rehabs that are Christ based have dealt with plenty of agnostics and atheists and just people that plumb don't believe in God or the Bible or none of that. I'm sure, but Celebrate Recovery themselves, uh, well, from my experience, from my small sample size of the ones I go to, they don't have to deal with it much. But it's pretty much both the books. One book's based off the other book. You know what I mean? And they're just quite frankly gonna make you a better person. You never. My accountability partner told me, which he's a real man. I couldn't ask for a better one, really. Like, he's not always nice, though, and that's like he holds me accountable. Your accountability partner is not, if you got a good one, he's not always going to be nice. He's going to let you know when you're slipping, you know. But he's the one that told me, he said, you never really complete the program, which is true because now that I've got a year and 13 months, or a year, 13 months in, not a year and 13 months, 13 months in, a year and 1 month. You know what I'm saying. That I'm just on the 12 step to the next thing, the next thing in between me and God. You know what I mean? Like I'm just 12 stepping that, which happened. Like I'm not gonna. It's an addiction. You know what I mean? It's not a drug addiction, but it's an addiction all the same. And it's in between me and God. And that's what 12 steps are for. You know what I mean? Is to get that stuff out of the way. To get that stuff out of the way in between you and the Lord. Anyway, that's my testimony. And you're supposed to give it and give it and give your testimonies. So they'll all get better and they'll all get longer. Like this is not my first attempt at making a video, but I cussed in the last one. And cussing is going to be something that I 12 step and get out of the way of my testimony. Like I can't cuss it to run my whole testimony. You know what I mean? And I can thank my meetings for just wise people that let me know that helped me broaden my horizons and see that I need to 12 step everything wrong in my life and everything in between me and God. I just need to 12 step it. Okay, that's it for today. I hope you all enjoyed my testimony. I love you, Dream Team. All my fans, the Dream Team. Just keep watching, please. And until next time, one warrior time, one warrior place, one warrior channel. Over and out.